Yacht A, welcome to Navajo Sage Weaver Tarot's channel. Thank you everybody for coming to my channel. This is a reading for Sagittarius. All right, Sagittarius, I am going to shake the gourd to move any stagnation energy. All right, Sagittarius, this message is for you. And so, Sagittarius, we are starting off here with the Eight of Pentacles. And Sagittarius begins their journey with the Eight of Pentacles here, working hard, being dedicated, making creating things, you got a bunch of vases here that you've been working really hard on. And you're just working on your talent, your skills here. And then we move on to the Tower. And the Tower is just letting us know that there's some sort of, change that have suddenly appeared in our life, a shakeup, facing challenges. And as you can see here, your house didn't fall down. You got spirit here. You have spirit here, looks like a hawk. You have another spirit, which is a squirrel. And your house is pretty, you just fell out of it. So, maybe you're just, maybe this tower moment, the shakeup is not building a new foundation. It's just maybe it's a transformation, a shakeup within yourself, right? So I see, these, it looks like a man and a woman. So I say maybe your masculine and your feminine is having a shakeup of some sort. So Spirit's letting you know that. And then we have here the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups is just, feeling the need to move on. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm moving on away from this situation. I'm moving on, I'm gonna leave this here, and I no longer need this, this energy, this rose energy here. I'm just gonna leave it. And so you're walking away from something that no longer serves you, and you're moving into a different journey here. And then here you have the full energy, taking that risk, going down the path, um, going down the path and just embracing it, being guided by spirit again. Here's the bird energy. I don't know if you can see it, but I will tell you. And then here it looks like you have an alligator. Looks like an alligator with hands. So, so you're going down this path here. You're taking a risk. You don't know what's down here. Could be, this alligator could, go away, or, this alligator could, eat you, but you don't know. But you got spirit here, and you're holding something else here too. Maybe it's something, maybe it's, a cup. But yeah, but when I look at this, because it's, springtime coming up and stuff, and or it is springtime, and I live in the New England area, and and here, we have fiddleheads, and so that kind of looks like a fiddlehead to me. So I don't know if that means something to you, Sagittarius. And so then after that, after the full energy here, we move into the Seven of Pentacles. And the Seven of Pentacles energy is just letting us know that we're reflecting, right? You're reflecting on all your progress, all your vases that you created, you know. Let's see if I need some light. Yeah, it's a little bit better. I don't know. Let's try color. All right. So it's not so bright. So you're looking at all your pentacles, you're looking at your reflect, you know, all your hard work that you've been putting in, you know, and and then after you reflect on your your seven of pentacles, right? Your seven of pentacles after you're reflecting on that, you know, um because you patiently waited for these, you know, these sunflowers to seed. Then you have the devil energy here. And the devil energy is just, you know, you're confronted with some sort of temptation, right? Um, maybe some sort of unhealthy attachment. Um, and you're trying to break free from it, you know, whatever's holding you back, you know. So maybe Sagittarius, maybe, you know, like um to me, you know, with looks like a film. So maybe there's something with film, photography, you know, that you that maybe you're an actor. I don't know what you do, Sagittarius, or maybe, you know, somebody is using their phone and recording you, you know, and um, or trying to trying to maybe somebody's watching you, you know, and you don't even know. And so, you know, maybe they're filming you, you know, here they got a cigarette, you know, or maybe, you know, maybe that's you, Sagittarius. I don't know your situation, but maybe you like pornography. I don't know, maybe that's a, you know, um not to laugh, but that's like you know, unhealthy addiction sometimes, you know. And I know people who can you can easily get addicted to that stuff. So anyways, after, you know, that energy, then we moved into the Page of Wands here. And the Page of Wands energy is just letting us know that, you know, after reflecting, you know, going into this energy, you know, detaching ourselves from, you know, unhealthy detachments. And then we finally get this burst of energy here. We finally get this burst of, you know, creativity, you know, you're excited, you know, you're bringing to yourself new life. And then you move into the Queen of Cups, you know, you're learning how to master your emotions, or you're learning something about yourself here. You know, you're getting a deeper sense. You're approaching your life with understanding, you know, you're approaching your life with, you know, compassion and balance, you know. And then you have you move into the Lovers. You know, the Lovers, you know, um is maybe there's choices in your life, you know. Maybe, you know, you're connecting with spirit, you know, learning how to love you. Maybe spirit, right? Because this is a bird. Um and so maybe spirit is teaching you how to love, you know, and maybe that's something that, you know, you have a hard time with, you know. And then when spirit's teaching how to love, right, it puts you into the Nine of Swords here, you know, feeling anxiety, you know, having fear, you know, like it's probably feels too much, you know, like to love yourself. Maybe that's something that you're not used to doing, you know. Maybe it's a new skill for you, you know, and And so it gives you anxiety at night, maybe, laying in bed, thinking about it like, oh my God, I gotta love myself, And then after you learn that, after you're in that energy, then you move on to the 501s here. And the 501s is, you're facing it. You're saying, okay, spirit, okay, spirit, I can love you. You're bringing them close, right? You're bringing your maybe you're Sagittarius, maybe you're a person that never worked with your spirit guides, right? And so letting go of some of this, these habits and stuff, coming into yourself, learning how to love, having anxiety. And so maybe you never really connected with your spirit guides, and so your spirit guides are showing you how to connect with that. And so, you know, so you're bringing them in. You're saying, okay, spirit, okay, guides, I'm ready to receive your love. But you're not doing it like, you know, you're not getting them all at once. You're kind of bringing them in slowly, like 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 a chessboard, right? Our skirt's like a chessboard. So you're making, wise choices with them. If I move this spirit guide here, how would it reflect on me if I move this spirit guide here? Like you're learning how to move with your spirit guides, because our spirit guides, they're all different. They all move differently with us. They all teach us a lesson in some way. Some of them, um, I always, I I have one spirit guide, and I say it's like my grandmother, and she's a little mischievous. She likes to get me in trouble. Like I wouldn't, and she finds it comical. And and sometimes, like, when I'm really focused into something and I'm not like letting anything distract me, sometimes she'll come in and she'll distract me in some way, and it's just comical because I'm like, why did you have to do that? It was doing so good, and now I have to, you know, have a tower. I have to, look at myself. And so our spirit guides don't move, all the same, you know, and they come in whenever they need to come in, like a chessboard. Um, then you have the Seven of Swords here. Um, the Seven of Swords, is that, oh, maybe, like you're carefully, well, you're strategizing, right? Because you don't like feeling this, but you want to learn how to love your spiritual guides. And so then it puts you in this seven the Seven of Swords. No, yeah, Seven of Swords. Um, so maybe you are trying to learn how to move in the dark, right? Maybe, maybe when you are in the dark, maybe when it's nighttime, or the devil comes out, tower happens, um, anxiety, the Nine of Swords, and then here you're moving in the dark with the Seven of Wands. I mean, the Seven of Swords. So you're trying to find courage within yourself to move, move in the dark. You got your bag, and moving around, trying to see if there's, you know, anything that's not supposed to be there, right? Um, or, maybe somebody is spying on you, you know, and spying on you in the dark. You never know. Um, However this is turning out. Then you move into the nine of inspiration, You're like facing the obstacles. You're you're um you're refusing to give up on yourself. You're like, nope. Then when you do that, when you move into the two of swords here, trying to carefully make a decision, you know, like here with the five of wands, her dress is like a chessboard. Here you got chessboard again. So now you're trying to make wiser choice, wiser choices that, you know, go go deep to your bones, maybe, you know. Um, Maybe you're trying to find clarity, Maybe you're trying to find the right choice in the situation. And then when you do that, when you're in that energy, you move into the Hierophant. And the Hierophant is, um, who is seeking, you know, seeking that path, seeking clarity, going within, right? Going within and making sure you move towards the right path, getting that clarity here, getting guidance right there, your spirit team again. And then after that, you move into the Knight of Wands, after you are feeling spirit, to guide you, right? Because you leave things behind. You got that ambition to move forward, fast, right? Taking charge. So you're ready to drive and, you know, and make swift actions if you need to. Like if you need to get a really nice vehicle here, Sagittarius, if you need to make a swift turn, get one of those nice cars. And then you move into the Page of Cups here. And the Page of Cups energy is just that letting us know that you're wanting to explore, and express yourself through maybe some sort of art, some sort of creativity. You want to be open, right? You want to be open like this umbrella here, for new opportunities, for new experiences to come in, Maybe you're calling them in here, blowing on that shell. And when you call them in, right? When you're calling them in, then you have the seven of emotions. And the seven of emotions is, standing your ground with courage. You're looking at all your possibilities. You're, you know, you're like looking at your guides, now they're fish. They're not chess pieces, you know. So, and you're becoming, you're becoming, you're learning to be closer to them. Here you were making strategy decisions on how your spirit guides were going to come to you. You're trying to, maybe looking within, trying to use your flashlight to find your way. And when you do that, you ran into this, you know, refusing to give up. You're sitting here, you refuse to give up, that you become bones. And because you want to make the right choices, and when you do, like the path opens up for you, and then now you got this car where you can go in and out, wherever. And then you are open to all new opportunities with this umbrella, calling in your team spirit, your team, and here they come. They coming in, and you're looking at them differently. You're like, and you're seeing how they move around you. You don't have to you don't have to move them. You don't have to bring them close to you, You don't feel the fear anymore. Um, and then you move into the Page of Cups here, again. And this time, with this Page of Cups here, you're exploring, right? You're exploring yourself freely, you know. Here you are, and you're allowing your inner spirit to move freely. Before you didn't, right? Before, you were having a hard time allowing yourself to move freely, you got a little heart here, spirits giving you a heart sign, you're moving this heart energy where your heart is. So this is a new experience for you, you called them in, they came, and now, you can see them, you can see whatever you're manifesting come in. Then you have the Knight of Voices here, spirits coming in with this horse here, you know, coming in and um, saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you, overcome these obstacles. You're going to get a ride on me. We're going to go. We're going to go and, you know, go through these obstacles like nothing, and we're going to go into the clouds instead of facing the landscape here. We're going to make a smooth journey for you, Sagittarius. And then when that happens and you go into the Six of Swords here, moving forward, having a sense of purpose, and now you know where you're going, you're having that clarity, um, you're like moving, you know, and your spirit guide here is happy to see you move away from, you know, this tower energy, this anxiety energy, this devil energy, spirit saying yes, because right here, spirit, he's glowing. Or maybe that's your masculine. Maybe Sagittarius, you were in your masculine, and now you're teaching your feminine. Your feminine, right? If you see here is a female hugging spirit, right? So maybe you're teaching your feminine how to love, because maybe you're a Sagittarius that likes to use your masculine energy all the time. And it's okay, that we can do that, but sometimes we gotta have balance in that, because sometimes, it's hard, like when people are, when they have a lot of different, traumas, different different types of abuses, I know like a lot of people that are traumatized in those areas, they're usually in their masculine energy, they don't trust, they don't, like you can't get past their barrier, they're, they just, they won't even let you in, So maybe you're teaching your feminine to lighten up, to take a risk, to learn how to, flow, have that balance that you need. Then you move into the Empress here. And the Empress energy is just letting us know that you're nourishing it. You're nourishing yourself, that feminine, you know. Maybe, maybe your feminine was covered, right? Maybe your feminine energy was covered. And so now you're uncovering your feminine energy. And then you go into the Page of Cups, right? And you're like, finally, Sagittarius, finally we're learning how to use our feminine energy, and we're wrapping our energy around it, right? Seeing all these once we let our feminine energy, once we allowed it to learn how to love, right? Then we started to enjoy that energy, and then, you know, see all these new opportunities, expand, and all these skills that we have, and they're approaching us, and we're curious, we're curious about this feminine energy that we, you know, that we're tapping into, you know. And then we end our story with the devil, You're, you know, you're like, yeah, it's time to confront my temptations. It's time to detach from um, you know, unhealthy behaviors. It's time to find my strength and break free and continue my journey, you know, um, and let go. And as you can see, now you're ready to let go because, you know, these these two are, the masculine and feminine are blindfold, and they're just connected with a rope, you know, and you know, whatever this entity was, right, that had a hold of you, right, because you made wise choices and you learn how to allow yourself, your feminine, to love, and you went and searched through the dark, right, and you called in your spirit, and now you're learning to connect with them. That spirit came in to help you and guided you in your direction. As you can see, spirit is happy watching you, get away, walk away from that, uncovering your feminine energy, looking at it with curiosity, and learning about it. And now the entity is a skeleton. And, now they're confused. They're like, okay, we have nobody holding us down. We have, you know, like, we have nobody here. This, it's a bit confused, like, I think we can go. We can detach, you know? So, Sagittarius, that is your story. All right. So, I'm going to pull a daily healing meditation, and we have: take time to tune into your body and recognize the message it is trying to send you. Learn to keep your heart open and soft through the trials of life. All right, Sagittarius, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to do your reading, and I hope this reading helped you in any way that it can in your journey. And I just want to say, Hojona Asklin, Hojona Asklin, Hojona Asklin, Hojona Asklin,